Yes, right now for flying for hobby, flying for fun is completely prohibited. Not forever. I don't think it's forever. It will come back, but
Obviously,
for
yeah.
now,
Until things are being able to, I wouldn't say controlled, but it's a measure to protect rather than to control.
monitored. Yes,
Monitored, exactly, because it can do serious
Look,
harm.
honestly, what they're doing here is amazing, because we operate in a few countries. We've seen the regulations in other countries. There is control and freedom.
Okay.
So do whatever you want, just make sure it's safe, right? So and that's how it works.
Tell me more about what is different about here.
Okay, so if we talk drone regulations, so let's say choose any country in Europe, doesn't matter, it's almost the same. You have altitude restriction, usually it's 120 meters. You have BV loss restriction, beyond visual line of sight. You're not allowed to fly a drone if you can't see it. So that's a fixed rule. You can't fly a drone without...
Even if there's something like a mountain or a hill.
If you can't see it, you can't fly.
Right.
So visual line of sight is mandatory. So, and that, again, that's a bit of a gray zone, because a big drone you can see at a kilometer away, a small drone you can see at 100 meters away. So the purpose of this, as long as you can see it, you can control it. And the reason for it is you see danger, then you can react. If oncoming traffic, helicopter, building, trees, power lines, you don't know what's there. But if you see the drone, then you know everything. So visually, you can see everything. So another rule is not flying 50 meters away from any humans or property.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So these are kind of the basic rules.
Okay.
Right?
In Europe?
In Europe. Same in the US, same in most countries. Now, if you think about that, where can you fly in Dubai 50 meters away from buildings and people? Basically, nowhere in Dubai.
True.
So what we do here is or in the rest of the world, when you want to fly, you apply for an exemption, right? I need an exemption to do a mission, right? Because you see news like, let's say, international news companies, I've heard they've already got a permit exemption, like a blanket exemption to fly, because they need to report the news. So they have, let's say, a registered pilot, a registered team, and these guys have exemption to fly. It's rare to get it blanket. Usually you get it per mission. So let's say a government entity want to do something, they apply for an exemption. Right. Each exemption have a number, and I apply for an exemption 1, 2, 3, whatever.
And it's renewable.
Yes. So again, so the exemption, you need to submit your case study and your safety procedures. How are you going to do this? So let's say my exemption now, I want to fly beyond line of sight. All right. If you want to fly beyond line of sight, so you submit that. I've calculated my route, for instance. I know there's no trees. I know there's no houses. I know there's no intersections. Okay. So for oncoming traffic, you can do something called extended line of sight, where you have pilot list, or observers, doesn't have to be pilot, every kilometer. So you have visual, you have communication. You can put this. You can say, I have a visual observer every 500 meters, and we have a talkie-walkie, and we're discussing this, we're constantly. So that's one case.
Like another pair of eyes every now and then.
So that's what the rest of the world do as an exemption. Here, every flight is an exemption.
Okay.
Every time we launch a drone, it's treated like an exemption.
Okay. How long does it take?
A couple of weeks.
Okay.
Couple of weeks. It's not bad. The standards are good. And then since 2015, we had regulations. The regulations are set in a way to protect the public, to protect the country, and allow us to operate and grow. So what you mentioned earlier is true. There is a huge kind of barrier to entry for other companies. They come in, they look at the regulations, they look at the complications, they look at how expensive, how complicated it is to fly, and they're like, oh, this is just too much. It's not worth it, let's outsource. So it works for me because, we were set up here in advance. We kind of, so probably we're the only service company or, tech company that have a government affair department, because we have to deal with them on a daily basis. Every flight needs to be monitored, and there's so many authorities that needs to be, informed.
Like PROs for the drones.
Yes. They're all in-house because they understand drones, and it's a decent department, and it's a lot of work because every permit is a big stack of paperwork.
But that's justifiable, right?
It's justifiable. It's really how we're keeping this industry floating, and not floating, ahead of the curve. We're ahead of the curve from other countries, because a lot of them just can't. They cannot do what we can do here. So yes, there's control, but we have freedom to experiment and to fly, because control gives you peace of mind, gives the government peace of mind. True. And gives me opportunity to R&D, to grow, to experiment, to do things. So in today's age, things are different. But if I talk 5-6 years ago, we were flying when nobody was flying. You know, the UAE had regulations before United States had regulations. We had it in 2015. Part 107 in the US was in 2016. That gave us a year of R&D ahead of the competition. Any investor would look at the industry and go, it's not regulated. I'm not going to invest in this, right? So we were a year ahead.
It gives us stability and direction and clarity.
Exactly. With regulations, you know, let's say, you know, I'm a drone founder. I need your money, and you as investors, like, you know, your pitch is, you know, we have an amazing tech, blah blah blah. But then he looks like, but you're not allowed to fly. Or
True.
Like the regulation might come in 5 years and 10 years, but it might never come. So early regulation helped us, and you know, the forward thinking that this technology is here to stay. It might be a threat, but what isn't?
True.
A car is a threat if misused. A laptop is a threat if misused. The issue with the drone have the added fear of privacy. That on top of the security, you have the privacy matters. But then again, that's also regulated here.
That's why it's regulated. And that's why your comment about this part of the world or this country it's being ahead of the curve, because they understand that, but it's not acting as a deterrent or as kind of a stopping, but it's an opportunity to explore more and sort of collaborative, you know, act in a collaborative partnership between the government and organizations such as you, right?
Any drone company, any person that want to fly here, he submits his safety case. He does the right purpose, he will be allowed to fly. So there's a lot of, like, you know, we hear it all the time, like, you know, we're meeting new companies like, you run a drone company, they're illegal. It's like, well, they're not. They're illegal if you misuse them, but when used
driving
properly,
can be illegal if you don't have a license.
Exactly. So that's an example I give all the time. You know, all drones needs to be registered just like cars. Nobody drive a car out of Altair and just starts experimenting and then park it back. So before the drone leaves, it needs to be registered with RTA. It needs to be recorded to your name. So this is what is kind of being worked on right now here. That all flights
it's not yet.
It's not yet. It's because there's so many drones, and unlike a car, you can drones can be.
It's accessible.
Yes, it's. They come in so many sizes and forms. They can be shipped here under toys. You know, it's a bit harder to kind of control, or So that's why, you know, a few years ago the government here decided that let's stop all commercial flights or non-commercial flight, all hobbyist flight, just to have a sense of
even far away in the middle of the desert.
There is no location where you're allowed to fly drone.
Oh wow!
Now,
but that's since when?
Probably a couple of years now.
Couple of years, okay.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of the year. Sometime early next year, it will ease up a bit. So we're
because of the ability to
because
register.
There's more software now. The government is installing kind of platforms where you can register the drone more. So it will be more monitoring.
The process of sort of licensing the flights and the operations will become more automated and therefore more accessible to people. And
there'll be more automation, more streamlined.
Are you contributing to that with the government?
No, we act. Sometimes we act as, because, you know, we're heavy users, so we contribute in terms of consultancy. You know, we're called into, like, what can this do? What can that do? What's this number? What's this weight? What do you think about, you know, EASA's regulations? What do you think about this? If we apply this, so honestly, it's beautiful here. And before they publish a new law, it's shared with operators. You know, do you have any comments before this becomes law, and so on?
It's like a proper research, right?
It's honestly, it's amazing here. It's just
it gives you a peace of mind, and obviously, this is a use case that you can show to your probably VCs or kind of investors to show them that, you know what, there's a partnership between us and the government, and that gives confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, this it's absolutely true. I mean, when it comes to tech here, I don't think anything will be slowed down.
Why is that, in your opinion?
Look, everybody says, you know, FEDS is so early, you know, before their age. In 2013, we started to open a drone company. But I think few remember that when I moved here in 2013, the government was advertising, delivering IDs and passports with drones. So, you know, if you think we're, you know, forward thinkers, the government is just way ahead of us.
Exactly,
right?
That's crazy, isn't it?
So drone deliveries proved to be a lot harder. You know, like Amazon couldn't do it, Google couldn't do it, you know, with millions and millions of dollars being injected to it.
Well, that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, you think about something, you envision the future, you try it, you fail, you learn, and then you try again.
It will happen. It will happen. That there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of stakeholders into drone deliveries. So a lot of things needs to be fixed before we start sending, you know, sensitive documents or information. But the vision is just that's
How hard is it to build Burj Khalifa or to activate delivery on drones?
Definitely delivery on drones, because we can.
Good. Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, Burj Khalifa, you need a good architectural company and a construction company. The experience exists. We've been doing this for
it's within a few kilometers.
3-4 years probably took the building to finish, maybe less. But with drone regulations and
the stakeholders are infinite.
Yes. So you have if we talk airspace, you have the civil aviation, you have the ANSs, where the airport
the air control system.
Yes. So the airport services, you have the
municipal services as
municipality, the transport authorities, all of these guys need to be informed.
Obviously, the Dubai police,
and then you have the police,
of course,
and then you have the national security, and then you have the private security, and then you have. So this is on the security level, and then you're talking about the drone. There is something very important about drones that people need to realize. There is no yet fit to fly drone. Like, when you fly to Europe, you get on a Boeing, right?
Yeah.
That's the plane that is fit to fly, that has been certified to fly, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a drone yet that have that certification because drone is so fastly, evolving.
Right.
Every year we have a new system, right? So none of these drones flew the million hours it needs without the error margins that it takes to be certified to be,
really
as a fit. Yes, there is. I think there's one drone in the US. I forget the name right now. That got
like what's the threshold? What's the number of hours there? Like 1,000, 10,000?
I don't know if it exists for drones. The FAA, it's in the millions, like hundreds of thousands. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of hours to like with the track record of no crashing.
Of course, because every time it happens, then it's resets, right?
Yes. So you have that. So you have that kind of.
You have that sort of barrier, which is obviously like anything else. If you want to do, let's say, even I'll tell you what, as little as coaching, right? You need to have a certain number of coaching hours. Similar with surgery, doctors and physicians, and obviously airplanes and pilots, and you have to have a number of. What you're saying is there's not been a single drone that has exceeded that number of
to be officially certified. Now, do drones crash? Obviously they do, but they're not bad. So we've been flying for 10 years. We fly daily, and we've had maybe 3 crashes over 10 years, and zero incident, like zero damage, zero incident. Just the drone fell on sands, and that was it. One was complete software error. One was pilot error. One was.
So exactly why it happened. That's the point.
Yes. So the drone comes. Most drones now have black boxes, so you can track everything. So you can know if there was jerky movement in the last second. You could tell if it's wind. You could tell if it's So you get the flight log, and then you can really guess. It's very rare where an investigation of the flight log, like we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't mention the intentional interruption, right? So some, because there's jammers that you could jam them and then drop them. So when these things happen, because it's an outside factor,
right?
That wouldn't record on the flight log.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it will show that GPS signal lost, radio frequency lost, and
you wouldn't know if it's a jammer or if it's actually legitimate loss.
So you'll have to make a guess at this case.
You have to make a guess.
You have to make a guess at this case. But yeah, so that's the stay goal. So you have technologically, can the drone, do I trust that drone to fly, over a highway, for instance?
Over people, let's
20 flights a day or 100 flights a day back and forth without it dropping. I don't, right? So we don't manufacture drones. I fly drones. They rarely drop, but would we fly them, right? So that's why the BV loss system and flying away from people still exists, because we just don't know if that drone is safe enough.
What do you need to have to know?
Enough flight hours. Same system, no messing with it. Just same hardware, same software. Just fly.
How many hours?
Show me the million hours that I need before.
In your
for us, we avoid flying over people in general. So it's in our, because we're on the industrial side. So I'm flying in the desert. I'm flying in construction site. I'm flying in oil and gas. I'm flying. So we're really away from people and cities. In the event that we have to fly over cities for the purpose of mapping, then we have a specific procedure, what the flight path would look like, which drone we use, so we tend to use the lightweight ones as well to avoid, in the unlikely event. So the damage would be
as
almost
minimal as it.
non-existent. So we fly things below 1 kgs and 2 kgs. That, you know, the kinetic force from 100 meters wouldn't be damaging. And then again, when we add the last stakeholder, which is infrastructure, where will my drone land to give you your delivery?
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you and I are sitting here, we want our ID or our pizza. Where would the drone go? Right. So there's obviously solutions, but there's so much to go into it all, right? So
I think of it like the charging stations of the Tesla, let's say, network. You have to have that sort of network.
Yes.
Right? It can't be just arbitrary, like you just pop up
Exactly.
anywhere.
So that final part of the technology is the battery. So we don't have good batteries right now, right? Your cell phone doesn't last a week, it lasts a day. And if you have a user, it lasts half a day, and then you have to charge it. Same apply for drone. We use almost same technology. It's a lithium polymer, battery.
Yeah.
And when you're having multi-rotors, like more than one engine on the drone, obviously it's consuming so much power. So most drone last between 10 and 50 minutes.
Yes.
On the multi-rotor system. Some successful, when we're talking battery only. So how far can you go with 40?
Yeah, exactly.
40, and then you need to come back. So this is where the vertiport or the ports around the city needs to be there. So one thing is you take your delivery and you stop halfway, you charge and you go like a gas station. Not an amazing solution because
not
the whole
not
point
really
of it,
practical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another way could be swapping packages. Other ways is remote charging on the go. You know how do you remote charge your phone, so you can have like the flight path where the drone goes is electrically charged. It's constantly charging as it goes. There's lots of ideas, but none of them is easy to implement. That's why Burj Khalifa is easier to build, because everything you need to build it exists and regulated and allowed, and
And for 100 years. Yeah.
Now, can we build a delivery system for a community? Yes, that's very easy right now, right? Choose any community in Dubai. We have a central hub. We put a drone system, and that exists, and that's very easy because it's a small ecosystem.
Mudun, for example, you have that.
Great, Mudun. You have a small, let's say, shopping mall in the middle. On the top of it, we'll put the takeoff and landing. We'll have an elevator for the team to go up and down. So within Mudun, we can deliver every day safely. So that would be it's low residential. The flight path will follow the trees and so on. So in the case something happened, it just won't hurt anybody. The landing zone will be easy because every villa would have a garden. So there will be a landing pad in front of it. You don't have to land as well. We can, line drop. Because one of the deliveries, one of the first fears that, the DCA asked us, how do you control after you deliver your package? Nobody tampers with the drone.
True.
Right?
True.
So somebody puts something in it or removes something from it.
Yes.
Or a pet could come too close to it.
That's
or so
true.
on. So there's a lot of things to worry about. So you could land in a cage, and then so when you land, nothing can touch it. And the cage doesn't have to be necessarily like a cage. It could be like an ATM machine where you come on the top. It's very technological. You put your PIN code, you extract your package. So, or you don't land at all. You just drop your package. You just, so the dropping is the easiest thing because it's cheaper than landing and creating a safety system around the drone. So you just drop the drone with a rope. Then it's just a package.
Oh, yeah, that's a mine sort of area of like landmine of things. That like,
yes. So
the
that's
amount
why,
of moving variables and moving issues that I can like now just talking to you for the past 3-4 minutes. It's crazy.
Yes.
How are you not maneuvering? And that's after 10 years or 11 years of being in this, and you're still grappling with those moving parts. Yes. That's unbelievable.
That's why delivery didn't kick off. But other things are a lot easier. So
what is FEDS? Tell me about FEDS.
Right.
What do you do?
So today we're a data company. So what we sell, the way we make money is we sell reports. This report could be in the form of a map, topographical map, like a survey kind of map, or a report of
site survey of some sort.
Site survey. The other report is
for whom?
Any
like telecom companies, petrol, gas,
anybody
oil and
that
gas.
needs a survey map. So basically,
so I'm sure D1, RTA, and those are
you're mostly
clients.
when you're talking on the mapping side, you're more on the infrastructure side, so municipalities.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Anybody that wants to build anything, construction company, mapping company. If you want to build a solar farm, if you want to build a road, whatever you want to build.
And what do you do to them?
We do the survey.
So you fly the drone.
We collect data. We convert it to a survey.
How do you collect data? Is it just images? Or
we collect them in 2D imagery and we convert into a 3D map.
Okay.
So that's the magic part that 10, 12 years ago when it was kind of not invented, when it made easier to be used on a drone, that was the hard part to sell. Because how are you doing how 2D's images are being converted to 3D? Because people that studied this, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's like a 5-year degree to figure out how to, do this. Well, now
image processing,
image processing now became so easy and automated that it really transformed the industry. And, as far as disruption goes, the drone destroyed the survey industry. And, so if you're a surveyor and not using a drone, I don't think it exists anymore. Every surveyor now have a drone to map.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because honestly, 5 years ago, if you're a surveyor not using a drone, you're not a surveyor anymore. I mean, there is a lot of room for ground surveys.
Of course.
And if you don't know ground surveyors, you've seen them on the road all the time. You see those yellow tripods.
Yes.
So we replaced this.
So
instead of having yellow tripods across the streets,
I see them all the time.
You don't need that anymore. You can use drone. There's a case where you can
use drone. It's not like drone complements them. It's just completely replaces them.
Yes,
more or less.
Yes to both. So you can completely replace them if depending on the level of accuracy needed.
Right, gotcha.
So there's a limitation to how much accuracy the drone can get and stay cost effective. Right. So I can give you. So let's say in a drone we do 3-4 centimeters accuracy.
Okay.
The ground team will do millimeters accuracy.
So in case you need that.
In case you need that.
Gotcha.
Right. So if I need millimeter accuracy, I will not. So the beauty of the drone is the speed. Speed means you're saving money. So if you have 100 kilometers square, a ground team will need a few months to finish that. A drone team could finish flying in a couple of days.
And it
take, yes, exactly. So, and it take
that's economies that just pays for itself.
So
so you have a sort of a compromise between either time or cost and accuracy
and size. And when it grows too much, the drone stops becoming efficient as well. So if it's above 1,000 kilometers, then it's just too much use. Maybe satellite, maybe use fixed wing planes, maybe use helicopter.
There's a different scale of.
But there's a sweet spot that, and no solution existed for it before drone. So you had to sacrifice. You either wait and pay for ground surveyors, or you pay the cost of a plane, or you sacrifice quality and use satellite. So a compromise had to be taken.
It just had that sort of sweet spot in between.
Yes. So anything from more than a kilometer square up to thousands, it's the drone now is just beautifully placed to do it very quickly and more accurately. So to add to it, so like the ground team will take, let's say, 2 months to finish, and when they're done, all they give you is, if you're not, an engineer, all you see is squiggles and lines, So you need to be a professional to read this, to convert it into data, to put it on your AutoCAD, to convert it to construction.
Yes.
What we produce is satellite data, but on steroids. You can see everything because it's 2 centimeters and 3 centimeters. So it's like you're looking on Google, but you can see everything. You can see, if we're
like extremely high resolution.
High resolution.
Obviously.
So the map is very, very. It's a digital twin basically. So it's a digital twin of the area that you're. So most of the time in construction sites, you're mapping the desert. You're mapping, It's not much to see. But the drones. So this is on the surveying side. Mm-hmm. You're saving a lot of time. It doesn't matter how more expensive the drone day is, it's still a lot cheaper than spending months in
the economy just works itself.
Yeah, and then you're speeding it up for the whole
that's
process.
The point.
So,
exactly.
So there's a lot of
does it need a specific type of competency when it comes to the client to operate this, or you just do everything for them?
No, for now we're still doing everything.
Okay.
It's getting easier and easier now for the clients to start doing it themselves. Probably another 2 or 3 years, because that's kind of our business model as well, is to empower drone program within entities. So we don't need to fly for you anymore. The drones are a lot easier to fly, a lot easier to operate. We can do all the pre-work. So we can calculate the flight path. We can send it on a file, upload to the drone, press a button, the drone does the whole job. So we will reach a point where we don't need to deploy boots on the ground to do drones. One drone can do the job already automatically, but because of regulations, we have to be there. And drones are becoming safer and safer and smarter and smarter.
Yeah.
So within 2 to 3 years, us flying will become less and less and less and less, to eventually become very niche clients where I don't want to get involved. I don't want my own drone.
It's a done for you service.
Yes, exactly.
Do it for me. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's your first type of kind of business, right?
Yes.
Which is your target addressable market is who? Construction companies?
Construction company, infrastructure, anybody that want to build, right?
Okay.
So mostly the job would come to us from whomever's doing the actual work. The end client would be whomever it is. It could be DEWA, it could be the municipality, it could be a private owner. So, but mapping is mandatory process.
True.
Before anything, because you need to measure the land to be able to do anything. You want to lay a road, you want to put a building, you have to map. On a building site, it's too small, you don't need a drone because, it's just one picture. It just doesn't make sense. You bring a ground surveyor. He take a few points, submit, done. But on any large site, you have to use drones, especially railways or highways, because it goes for miles and miles and miles. So we could do, let's say, 100-kilometer road literally in a day. But for a construction site, you need to keep moving, putting the tripod, moving the tripod. So you can imagine the time it's going to take. And
then put together all of these points.
And then processing all this data and then submit it.
Okay.
So these are, that one vertical and that set of client.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we do is asset inspection.
Okay.
And that, again...
What type of asset?
Any asset.
Okay.
And ideally an asset that you don't want to risk a human life to inspect.
Like oil and gas.
Like oil and gas.
Okay.
Any oil rig, any flare tip, bridges even.
True.
Tall buildings.
Yes. Inaccessible sort of.
Inaccessible. So there's even indoor or... So again, the drone here is saving a lot of time and money. So if we think of flare tip...
What's a flare tip?
If it's like a chimney that's burning. You've seen pictures of it. It's like a chimney in an oil and gas that's constantly burning.
True.
And that needs to constantly burn because that's burning the gas from the whatever.
From the well that you're...
If it's not burning, it's releasing toxic gases. So you need to shut it down if you want to inspect it, clean it, do whatever you need to do. So that thing needs to burn for the company to make money. That's kind of
like in the Ruwais site, right? In Abu Dhabi and others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any site where there's oil and gas production, you will see there will be flare.
Sure.
And usually there's depending on the size of the factory or the
refinery
site, there would be sometimes 8 flares, sometimes 1, sometimes 20. It depends.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a good example because these things need inspection on a regular basis, right? They're obviously burning hot. And to inspect them, you need to shut them down first because they need to cool down.
Yeah.
And then you need to have either rope access, somebody needs to climb up, or build scaffolding.
Yeah.
Or what's another way to do it? There's probably another way to climb.
Helicopters roping down.
Maybe. Again, depending on the size. Some of them have their own built-in steps. But like I said, if this thing is not burning, they're not making money. So the shutdown alone.
It's like an airplane on the tarmac.
Yes, you're not making money.
It
needs to burn. It needs because that production has stopped. That's what it means.
True.
So irrelevant of how much it costs you to inspect is how much it costs you to shut it down.
True.
That's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
So when you do it with a drone, you don't have to shut down.
Oh, you can do it while
it's burning. So all we have to do is just watch the wind and just be against the wind. So the wind is blowing that way, the heat is blowing that way. We stand that side. So we're not exposed to heat. And at this point, it's amazing, right? But that's not all. Because right now, you have a digital twin of your site that the engineer doesn't have to risk his life, climb up.
Yeah.
Because it is a risk.
Because his eyes literally are up there and he's doing everything
it's now, the flare is in front of him on a computer. And more than that, instead of taking notes, taking a few pictures, it's a real-life digital twin with millimeters accuracy. He can zoom in, he can check, he can take his time.
High-resolution video feed, yeah.
So he can see all of that without risking his life. Now, if an oil and gas guy would be listening right now, it's like, yeah, sure, whatever, because there is no intrinsically safe drones right now. That's
what do you mean?
Explosion proof.
Gotcha.
So to enter a oil and gas facility, you have to have all your materials, your phone, your headphone, your shoes, anything you're bringing.
Because of the lithium battery.
Have to be, yes. So it's very hard to certify a drone because of the rotors. They're constantly spinning.
Yeah, the mechanical elements.
Yes. So what you want to avoid to get a certification to go, you can't spark. If you spark,
of course,
you can't go because of the fumes you cause, right? You cannot stop a drone. You cannot certify a rotor.
It's a mechanical thing that's moving at how many rotors? Yeah, rotations.
Has it happened? We've never heard of an incident, but it can happen. So it never gets certified. So the environment to fly.
It's the egg and the chicken, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we fly, and it's being done, and millions and millions of dollars are being saved using drones on these sites.
So you have worked.
Yeah, we do it. So we have to work with the site. Okay. They need to know what the risk measurement needs to be
right.
So
they have to accept.
Areas.
Okay.
There's areas where the drone will never go because these are constantly fuming. The drones will never go there. But most sites, especially high open sites, so it need to be a balance between our safety study, their case studies, their safety studies to do this. But that's only in oil and gas. So another thing that you can inspect is power lines, cranes. The ship-to-shore cranes that spins.
Right.
Again, that's another thing that if shut down, you're not making money. The crane needs to keep moving containers, right?
Yes.
But it also needs maintenance. A drone
Instead
can
of
inspect
sending a human being up.
Yeah. A drone can inspect that thing without having stopped. So it's just economically, it makes a lot of sense. But the reason you don't see a drone everywhere you look right now is just one, there's still like a lot of companies still think it's illegal. That okay, they will dismiss using drones altogether because it's illegal.
Before they talk to you?
No.
While they're
before, like
okay.
like we've heard of it.
But that's easy. You can educate them through ads and marketing.
That's what we try to do. So that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years.
That's my question to you is now everything that you've told me. If I'm a proper businessman who is operating a company, whether it's in the construction, whether it's in the oil and gas, whether it's in the power, whether it's in the anywhere in between, and I'm hearing this, and I'm saying, okay, so money is saved because time is crashed. I'm saving obviously safety and security because of people, and they're not human beings going into high places or dangerous places. Why would I? And now I know that it's not about regulations because you're taking care of that.
We take care of the regulations, yeah.
Why would I not work with you?
You wouldn't. Once you're aware of full of that. And the companies that's all they do. It's just drones. They don't even think about it anymore because they save so much money on replacing helicopters, which is a bigger thing. So when it comes to the inspection company, this is a disruption we did. So helicopter cost has been shaved so much. So once you're aware of all of these, you will use drones. And obviously there's a huge adoption rate right now, but not enough. So if I had to guess, and this number I always guess, I say we have probably 20% adoption rate in this part of the world.
Year on year?
No, right now.
Total. From your target market.
From my target market, I think, only 20% of people or companies are aware right now.
It's amazing potential, isn't it?
There's so much more potential here. And, we're still in a small country. But
what's your cost to acquisition from a client perspective, typically speaking?
It's so we're
very expensive. Or
it's not. I mean, it's hard because we're on a B2B. There's no two clients the same, so it's a lot harder to measure.
Like, is it $1,000? Like on average, is it $1,000 per client, or is it like from your marketing, from your ads, from your calling, from your?
I think I can produce a percentage on a yearly basis rather per client, because for instance, our clients are limited as well. So for instance, my biggest, let's say, client, oil and gas, power line, that's it. And here there's one company for power line. There's one municipality. There's
in each country.
Yes.
Yeah,
so.
But what about marketing and ads?
Our biggest spend is on marketing.
No. As in your clients.
I don't get you.
So, for example, your clients could be, I don't know, movie producers or marketing people who want to shoot certain dramatic scenes.
Yeah, we have a very small department. Yeah, we don't advertise for that.
Why?
So it's
not a potential.
No, it's a great potential, but it's just we do media. We have a small media department, but it's mostly focused on serving our clients that wants the media. So we have the permit. We're working with you.
Yeah, exactly.
We want a video.
Because you're a trusted kind of operator for the government. So getting a permit from you is much easier than buying my own drone and doing my own shoots.
We could do this, but we're not a production company. So that I don't have, let's say, director of photography or producers on. We don't.
But the market, exactly. Like Dubai is a studio city. I mean, if anyone from the viewers are listening, if they reach out to you and say, hey, you know what, I need a couple of drones that do dramatic moves and everything. They do all of the kind of storylining, everything else. They just have a couple of shots that they want to do with you in, I don't know, somewhere in Dubai or somewhere in this.
We could do that. So we have done, I think on our pages you'll see that we've done a lot of work on the media side. So I call it media. I don't know if that's the right term, but
it is.
It's the media department, inspection department, survey department. So on our media team is small and we do some work. And like you said, if they're bringing all the professionals, then we have the pilots for it.
But you don't heavily market on it.
No, we don't heavily market on it.
Why is that?
It's.
Do you think it's a
when
opportunity?
We started, I didn't want to do any videos, to be honest.
Really?
Media. Yeah.
Why?
The focus, we wanted to be seen as an enterprise. Like a professional services. Not that shooting videos is not professional, but from an enterprise point of view. So
do people from, let's say, the DEWAs of the world, the MRs of the world, the contractors of the world, do they see you less valuable when you have already things in the media, or?
I don't know. I don't think so. But initially, when we started 10 years ago, we were a survey company. That we started as a surveyors.
Okay, right? It was just a focus.
It's just a focus.
Strategic focus. Okay.
Again, at that time, drones weren't that easy to fly. So the figuring out how to map with the drone was our first job, and we spent a year trying to figure it out.
True.
There was nobody to teach you. So the software was there, kinda. The hardware was there, kinda. The regulation was there, kinda. So how do we put these together and turn it into a sellable service that will benefit our partner or the community or the clients and so on? So that was the focus. And the team's like, let's do media. It's like, no, let's not do media. We need to focus on this. But eventually, there's nothing more than a bored pilot. They want to fly. Yeah. So they put enough pressure that
there's nothing more expensive than a bored pilot.
Yes. So the team kind of pushed it on me. I was like, let's do a flight or two and so on. So we eventually had the media, I think, because we did a 10-year celebration, and in the what do you call it? Looking back, there was a slide about when we first started doing media and our first media production video and so on, and it was beautiful. I mean, it's hard not to get a beautiful shot.
Exactly, especially if you have, like you said, producers and art directors that can kind of draw a storyline or some sort of a scene structure that's so beautiful and give it to you to execute. You feel proud being part of that sort of, because it's out there, right? We've done some beautiful
things now. As you speak, it comes to my mind. We've done, advert for hotels, for cars, for big events as well. So we've done some work.
So looking back at your target addressable market, because yes, if you think about the first part, which is the enterprise, the sort of everything is B2B to you, but if that part of things, obviously it's very limiting, because how many dealers, how many construction companies, it's like, it can't be more than 50,000, let's say, in our...
Yeah, it is.
But as media or potential projects that you can do on the media, that's almost unlimited. Do you agree?
Yeah. It's also seasonal though here. So we have, I'll give you an example. So I'll probably do one media job a week, but we fly every day for enterprise. Right.
Is it because of your marketing and attention?
Yes,
or?
It's our marketing and attention. So we push a lot more on that side. And then the other thing about media is, you have a huge hiatus during the summer. So there's no events. Yes. And it's too hot to be outside anyway to do anything.
True.
And, it affects our business as well. We slow down in summer. So what we could do in the winter.
Even on the business, on the enterprise side.
So usually in the hot months, we don't fly past 10 a.m. So we just start early, stop by 10 a.m. and that's it. That's days done. In the winter, we don't fly afternoon. The wind picks up in the UAE every day afternoon.
True.
And it's not really safe. So the team would fly as long as they can, 1, 2, if they had to, until 3, and that's it. The day is over for them. In the summer, we finish a lot earlier. They will start earlier and finish earlier. So
where's your geography?
Abu Dhabi, Dubai, the whole of the Emirates.
Okay.
We fly a lot in Saudi as well. We just set up in Tanzania, so we didn't start flying yet.
Okay.
We fly in Oman.
Okay, so your focus is sort of GCC
and Africa. So the way we see our approach, we started with UAE only, obviously, then GCC, then Middle East, and now 2024 was our Africa expansion plan. So we successfully launched Tanzania, and we're negotiating with West Africa now to see which one closes first.
Yeah.
So the next move in the next few years would be more expansions in Africa.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Now, looking back 10 years at FEDS.
Okay.
I like the acronym FEDS, Falcon Eye Drones.
Yes.
FEDS. It's a nice... So the S at the ends is drones.
You can call it services if you want.
Services, okay.
The S at the end is because FED is boring, but FEDS is a cooler name.
It's a cooler name, It gets you. I think of movies like Get the Feds here.
Exactly.
So looking back 10 years, what's let's say the catalyst moment that you've had that sort of, if you look at the graph, it was like this and then something happened and shot up.
Yeah.
What was that?
Okay, so luckily and beautifully, our graph has been, consistent growth. We had, even 2020, it didn't, when you see 2020 didn't go like this. It just flattened and then, and then moved.
MashaAllah, that's good.
So, but it was a very slow start. So we got the first year at zero turnover, just nothing. We couldn't convince anybody to buy a drone.
Where did you get your initial funding? Is it self-financed?
I self-funded, I self-funded the first few years. So I self-funded for 6 years.
6 years self-funded.
6 years,
okay,
yes.
When did you break even? What year? During the 6 years?
So I think fourth year.
And
then fifth and sixth was profitable. And then we were more attractive by then.
When
In terms of turnover, 2020 is when we...
what year did you stop being able to sleep?
Okay, so I haven't slept all of 2018, all of 2019. And 2016 and 15, it was exciting because it was just new.
It's new,
the
exactly.
costs are low, the number of employees is little. So as we grow,
The drain size is small, right?
So I was running out of money very quick, and we knew that if we don't close the next project, or we don't raise, or we don't do something, this could collapse. And honestly, in the beginning, because look, I have to say, when I said I want to launch a drone business in the Middle East, nobody said, "Oh, well done, go ahead. This is a great idea." Everybody's just like, between stupid and crazy, any adjective.
Does that have anything to do with Middle East?
Well, drones to start with, again, at that time, the only time you hear about drones is in connection with military. That's it. Nobody think of them from the commercial point of view.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's one. And in the Middle East, what are you going to do in the Middle East? Like our countries here are
not as mature, let's say, in the understanding of the value.
Yeah. And then, our security here is different from other countries.
Oh.
We are like, if you say I want to launch drone business in, I don't know, France at the times, okay, but here we are such more, protective, and, we control things. We don't let things, there's no guns on the street. There's no, there wouldn't be drones flying as a,
right, logically speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, in hindsight, I turned out to be the smart one and they were wrong, but in hindsight, we're all geniuses, right? So at the time, it was, again, when you don't have the support from your, surroundings, your friends, your family, your investors, and so on. So I couldn't convince anybody to go in with me on a big stake.
You tried?
Probably not heavily,
Okay.
just, but
So casually.
yeah, and we kind of operate on a 6 months model. If we can do this,
Right.
then
So your cutoff
we'll
is
push.
6. Okay, good.
Then we'll do this, we'll push. But
Oh, nice.
but we could see it, right? Because again, when I heard about drones first time, I kind of self-educated, because who do you talk to?
Yeah.
There is no university, there's no professors,
The whole
there's
thing
no,
is exactly.
there's no companies to steal from. So I found somebody in Germany, and then they told me how to build a drone, how to fly drones. So I spent a few weeks there. I met another startup of drones in France. Also, they were very supportive. They helped me come and understand.
Right.
And another trip to the US, visiting other early startups. So this is where I kind of amassed that knowledge to come here and launch this. And I hired my first 2 pilots, trained them how to fly on the drones, and the 3 of us, we were on a mission to kind of master converting 2D data into 3D map.
By software and
By
obviously
software,
the
hardware,
hardware, yeah.
So, we kind of figured it out, but we couldn't convince anybody to buy it. So my job was more
as
on...
in projects.
As a project, as in sell the service, right?
Yes.
So my job became less and less flying drones or worrying about flying drones. And I haven't flown drone for God knows. And more on what do we do to educate the market? How do we spend?
So practically sales and marketing.
Yes. So obviously I was responsible for all of that in the beginning, just me figuring out what to do. And slowly we're growing the team. But what I realized early on, that the classic model of hiring salespeople and knocking doors is not going to work. It was so hard convincing people to do something. We were always facing if it's not broken, why fix it, right? So the statement is beautiful. It doesn't apply here, right?
Is it beautiful?
Well, no, you're right.
You're being politically correct here.
It may apply to other things. Like if your camera has been working for 10 years, why replace it? Well, because there's a new one that's more amazing, that's going to save you so much time and effort.
The opportunity cost of
not changing.
Yeah.
So we struggled with that, especially in the construction industry. They're so used to following a certain, I know who to call. I know who. Actually, somebody said that to my face in a sales meeting. That okay, I win a tender. I opened my book literally, and I was like, I call this guy for this, I call that guy for this, and I know the job is going to finish on the day that I want it to finish. I trust those companies. So the change for me is I don't know what's going to happen. I don't understand it. So that's why the resistance to change was heavy, and especially when you're telling them, I want to fly a drone and replace your tripods, and you're going to get the same results. So
the skepticism is over the roof.
It's huge. So we
that's
focus
the
on
opposite of
marketing.
innovation, isn't it?
Well, again, yes, absolutely. And then you get the early adopters, but the early adopters pays the price, right? So the risk of the thing not working. So you have the early adopters that will pick it up And then, they're the risk takers. They will try, they will do it. If they're successful, then they're ahead of the curve now. They've been doing this for years, or they fail. And then you have the entry level guys that's like, okay, I'll wait for, some.
Give me a couple of use cases.
Yeah, let the other guy test. Let's test on those. If it fails, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But we didn't reach the full adoption rate. We're still in that, testing. I want to see it. I want to make sure phase.
But what was the catalyst in the 10 years? Thing that sparked and then just the whole thing
Funny enough,
up.
as bad as Corona was for the planet, it was good for the drone industry. Because the drone became a household name used in a good way for once. We're spraying the streets. We're delivering goods to closed communities. Some people are, not dying, but, hungry. It's a complete shutdown. We send food to them with drones, right?
Oh, you did that?
We didn't do that personally, but the world did.
Right.
So the concept, we didn't have the
we didn't have that drama of close up.
Yeah,
exactly. But the concept became more sort of. It's like the QR code for. It kicked off after the.
Suddenly, drones are man, these drones are really good. So not only from a public perspective, because who the public is, wives and sons and kids of CEOs that will make decisions eventually are looking at Instagram and stories and say like, man, drones can do shit. So that's one thing, but also regulators. It's like, oh man, if we regulated drones, we could have delivered food to our people now, but we don't have regulations for that, right? So it really kind of pushed the industry forward. So by the time the
drama of COVID
cooled down, gone, it's like everybody rushed into drones, right? So 2022 and 2023 for us was just like crazy years. The demand is massive.
So is that like... The COVID acted as a self-educating element for the entire concept of...
Okay. Because drones before that, they either, weapons of war or they shut down airports. That's it. Or they're a nuisance or they make noise. Like nobody thought of them as like...
functional.
As it's a good economy for the country or nobody wants that. That's just all
Not
I know
for the utility of it, but for the...
So for them, drone is a nuisance. It flies over my house. It shuts down airport. It's, it's a weapon or whatever. So that's one, but that wasn't our catalyst, to be honest. I think while we were doing the effort in marketing and market education, so we converted all of our money, all of our spending to marketing. So we attended every event that we could. We spent a lot of money on. So I had 0 salespeople, and all that money went to marketing efforts. So
events primarily?
Events, staff, you name it, SEOs, paid ads.
Digital, okay.
We went full on digital. We had to. And every time we did one case study, we just nuked the internet with it because people had to see, right? So, now we have thousands of maps. But at the same time we're doing this, it was globally growing as well. Obviously, we're not the only company that saw this coming. So globally and locally, people are starting. And there's the thing that we were doing early. Every time somebody tried to start a drone startup here, we would support them. We would immediately come in.
You get excited, right?
We get excited because it's going to save me marketing expenses now.
True.
So we would support them. We would encourage them. We'll show them the way. We even printed kind of a document on how to navigate the
Really?
We just shared it. Just launch a drone company and start marketing, please.
Go
because
ahead.
we need the market.
We need
is
to
big.
share the marketing spending, right?
Yes, and then the more awareness, the more we're going to sell.
True.
So for us, there was 3 years in, we won our first big project, and we managed to negotiate upfront payment, which stopped me from having to raise to support that. So that was kind of how we survived the 6 years. So they paid a year in advance for a 2-year project, and the next year they paid another year.
That's an amazing client, isn't it?
I love that client. He's like my best friend.
So did that start allowing you to at least sleep and not wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning?
So the early days were not that stressful because, like I said, salaries weren't bad. So yeah, the end of the month was always stressful. You have to pay, and thank God we were consistent. We never not paid salaries. So we had to be aware what the market is. And the example I give, while drones are very expensive, we didn't overspend in advance. Right. So I need, let's say, 3 drones to run this office, and I have 2 pilots. Right. So as we grew, we invested. As we grew, we invested. So that helped us kind of stay floating. Where in other businesses that are capital heavy, you invest the money first and then you pray for clients. If the clients don't come, you just can't last anymore because you're just spending too much money. You're paying too much rent. You already paid the $1 million it takes to launch the business. Now you have to return that money. Otherwise, the banks, the investors, whatever, or you lose the money. So for us, we were just kind of pushing slowly, being weary that this. Like I said, we didn't have the support, so we were worried that this might shut down any moment, right? And there is always somebody pessimistic enough that come and say, look, next year they're going to ban all of this. You're not allowed.
Those are a dime and a dozen, yeah.
And there's a lot of changes that could really ground drones. But if you're going to be scared of everything, you'll do nothing, right? So you have to take some risk at some point. So we kept that in mind. I mean, today it's a different world that we like. Yeah. Where we are is completely different. We're way recognized by the industry, by the government, by so on. Global threats or local threats, all of that won't affect us anymore because there's ways around everything.
Trust.
Yeah,
exactly. Because of the process, because of the awareness, because of the relationships. Yeah.
And drones have proved their worth now.
Yeah.
If anything going to ground drones, it's going to be an event like COVID, for instance, that grounds everything, right? So I don't think there's a situation where drones will be grounded. So it's a decent industry, it's future-proof, and it's only getting better. And like I said, there's still a lot more room for growth here.
Every sci-fi idea, not just movies, but idea of the future always includes drones. So that's sort of the vision of the utopian world where everything is drones. So people always figure out how to manage, how to control, how to maneuver all the issues. And I think this is where you're optimistic about the path going up. What was the lowest point in the past 10 years for you?
Probably the 2019 when we grew too much and we're just not keeping up anymore. So the profit is not enough to sustain the next phase of growth.
What do you mean?
So
you win a project, but there's no upfront payment, and you have to pay.
So upfront payment was, lucky. You don't get upfront payment here because when you work with the government, it's just a tendering process. You get paid whenever you get paid, and definitely not before the project starts. It's post event, and sometimes the payment is quick, sometimes the payment is not quick, depending on the process. So our cash flow situation became dire because we were running a lot of projects that needs funding, and that money is going to come next year. But I need money right now.
That's a weird problem, right? I mean, it's a
cash flow issue is it's a big thing.
I'll tell you what. Let me share this quick thought with you, and I'm really interested to hear your thought on it. This is a problem that I keep on hearing in this part of the world as opposed to other parts of the world. Payment issue, cash flow issue, consideration issue for the side of the company. People think that, those startups are Microsofts or Cisco's, or that they have unlimited cash and they can award projects that are probably in the millions or hundreds of thousands and then pay whenever they pay without consideration for how damaging can that
impact that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's your thought on that?
That's an issue here. It's definitely an issue. I mean, there's a lot of projects that would be too big for startup to bid on. You have
which is very limiting, right?
It's very limiting. So, we have here what you call a bid bond as well. So you have to pay bid bond
that's
before
expensive.
You start. That's expensive. And then you have to pay performance bond. That's also expensive. So obviously a startup cannot afford this.
Which is immediately a barrier that you...
That's their liquid cash being frozen. And then now they need more money to operate the project.
And there's no upfront payment?
There's no upfront payment. I mean, there is upfront payment, but they need a bank guarantee. But then, you're back to square one. So these are limiting factors. From the client point of view, you understand it because they want to work with companies that are financially stable, that are strong, and so on.
That's going to stay there by the end of the project, right?
And if you're not financially strong to pay these, means I don't want to work with you. So it's kind of a way to gauge these startups. But from a startup ecosystem point of view, it's very limiting. It's very, very limiting because these guys will struggle. So you'll have to, to grind really. So you can only win the small ones, or you can borrow. And borrowing is very expensive. So if when you're borrowing on projects, it's around 20%.
Wow.
So if your profit is 20%, it will eat your profit, but then you'll have your first project. Then you'll have you give yourself a name, you give yourself I've done this. That will help you win future project in the future. But this is the situation where people end up raising because
when you and we'll talk about raising in a second, but when you compare this type of dynamic, because it's a dynamic bigger than startups and probably bigger than companies as well. When you compare it to other parts of the world, let's say in the States, in Europe and others, how does it compare?
Okay, I haven't operated much in these, but I have my little exposure. I've seen it. So what we lack here is a huge entity that takes care of these things. So for instance, I don't remember the name exactly, but there is organization in the UK that would support startups for these things. So they will fund it.
They're like vouch for them.
Yes. So like, so there's a project. So let's say the electric company is not going to take the risk, but there is government funded program for startups like, okay, you want to work, you have the capability, there's this product, we will fund you. So there will be grants or loans or, very, very low margins loans. So they will support them financially to get off.
Project-based.
Yeah. Project-based.
But that doesn't exist here?
I don't know if it exists here. I don't know if in our desperation, we must have looked, but we haven't seen, if it exists, it's not, well advertised. There's a lot of startup support here. There's a few foundations. But not in the sense of that specific example where you
financially
support a
backing a project.
Because, if let's say a tender is, I don't know, let's say 10 million dirhams.
Yes.
A bid bond usually is in the single digit percentage, less than 5 usually, but that's a few $100,000. And then the performance guarantee is 10%. So that's another 100,000. And then you need money to buy cars and equipment to do this job. And then you get paid when you deliver. So now you're running out of cash. You're not paying salaries. So it's,
and the companies usually, and most of these companies probably are government organizations, they don't pay enough consideration to this. They have procedures. These guys, they have procedures they have to follow. But how can you tote innovation, support for startups, economic prosperity using entrepreneurship?
That's the entity that is lacking because, so let's say the power line company's job is not to take care of startups, it's to do their maintenance, right? So somebody needs to be in the middle helping, boosting companies. But there is programs here for some entities, but I don't know how widely used it is.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's one of the things that sort of were a sort of fatal point in the 10 years.
So at that time, we're running big projects, which means our costs are very high, but we're not going to get paid until next year. Now, what do you do? So you could look into taking loans on these projects, which means killing your profit. But this is a year when
you don't advise this from any of the startups.
Look, absolutely, if you have to. Because you just look in the beginning, in the early days, you don't want to make profit. You want to build a name for yourself, right? Gotcha. So without those first few projects, nobody's going to trust you in the future. You're never going to win the big projects. So you need that. You need to build a name for yourself. So if you have to win a few projects at no cost, at no profit, then you do it. You don't really have a choice at this stage. Of course, if you have the choice, you take the money choice. But and most of the time, you don't have the choice.
You don't reject the project because of not taking a loan, let's say, or some sort of.
So the risk appetite of people are different. But yes, if you have a chance to take a loan on the project, because banks won't give you if you're new. And here you have to have a 3 years of clean record before a bank would consider you. So if you're brand new, you'll have to look into private money, and private money is not cheap. You're forking out 20-25%
of the company
of the loan, and that's a lot of money.
I mean, private money as in borrowing.
Yeah, you're borrowing from not a bank, basically.
Gotcha.
They won't be cheap. Nobody's gonna give you less than. If you find someone that gives you at 15%, that's amazing. But why would I give you risk money if my return? Because I could have them in bonds or whatever, and I can get 10%. So I'm gonna loan it. I'm gonna need some big returns.
So what about now financing? At what stage you are? Series A, Series B, pre-seed?
We didn't do any of this. So in 2020, I just sold 49% of my shares. That's it. So we never raised ever. So there was no seeds. There's no, like I said, we were self-funded, and we got lucky with a couple of contracts in the beginning that we kept us funding, and honestly, there's to that same story, and I think I was a bit unjust there because we won a huge government tender that required $500,000
investment
performance bond.
Okay.
And when I bid, I knew it was on the contract that if you win, you have to put the $500,000, and I knew I didn't have the $500,000. We won, and we managed to negotiate ourselves out of it.
With the client?
With the client.
Oh, and the client accepted.
Eventually it accepted. It took us a few weeks of back and forth.
Of course.
But eventually, because that was my argument.
Because you have to earn the trust, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had one advantage that worked for us. We're the only drone company.
Right.
They don't have a choice.
Okay, that's a good bargaining chip.
And from my point of view, it's like, I'm a startup. You take my $500,000, you will hurt our business. You just like, why do you need the money? And my counteroffer was take 10% on every invoice before you pay us. So they eventually decided to remove the performance bond and not take 10%. Other entities do that here as well. I think now I'm realizing I'm being unjust as well. So some entities don't take the performance bond anymore, but they just take 10% on every payment they give you.
What do you mean take 10%?
All right. So usually performance bond is 10%.
Yeah.
All right. So the project is 10 million. So instead of taking 100,000 advance.
So just to clarify, a performance bond, just if you explain it practically
performance
speaking.
bond is a 10% that the client would keep until the project is completely delivered and fine and signed off. That's it.
Keep in some sort of a third party,
with
which
the bank,
is a bank.
With the bank.
Exactly.
They don't keep the money. You just freeze the money in the bank. You get a bank guarantee, it's called.
And the intention is for the client to feel safe that whatever they want to achieve will be achieved. Otherwise, the money is mine. It's like an insurance.
It's just you perform well, you take all your money. This is 10% insurance policy that if something goes wrong, at least we keep the 10%.
Yeah.
So that's a typical process. It's not as common anymore. We see it less and less. So only older companies, that haven't really changed are still using it, but it's improving now. We're seeing it less and less. Because it's very taxing. I mean, do your homework and hire the company that you believe in. I think so. I mean,
be competent enough to be able to evaluate.
Yes, to evaluate.
Okay. So it was a lazy way of evaluation, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I've only seen it this year with two entities that I feel they're using in old, outdated methods.
Gotcha.
But when we're working with new companies
methods.
now, yes, we're seeing it less. Even bid bonds, we're seeing it less and less. So nonetheless,
okay.
So instead of taking that 10% in advance and freezing it, because what they'll do is they'll take the 100,000, the bank will freeze it, and the bank will issue a paper to the entity saying the money's safe with us. So that's the 10%, right? Now, the other way is they don't take the 10% in advance. So I'm doing a project, let's say over 2 years with a deliverable every 3 months.
Yeah.
So I deliver in 3 months, they pay for those 3 months minus 10%.
Which they keep. And then they pay up by the end.
Yes, exactly. Every 3 months they pay minus. But at the end of the project, they have kept 10% anyway. But instead of freezing the money in advance, they freeze it slowly in chunks. That's a lot more helpful.
That's amazing.
That's really amazing. Because even if you're not making profit, you're just making, and the cash is in your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
there's blood in the veins, right?
So these are ways that can help. Because when we said it earlier, it's not like a 100% like that. And on private companies, I just don't remember seeing it recently.
No, private. Yeah, that's true.
I haven't seen any of the big names like, I don't know, Siemens or any those companies. They just don't do that anymore.
What do they do instead?
I think they do a tendering process. They choose a trusted partner. They work with them, and if you deliver, I guess eventually you can take them to court if you have to. But in general, it just doesn't happen much. Or maybe because
do you think it has to do with the maturity of the market?
I think we're getting in a phase also that it's easy to investigate other markets. If you think 20 years ago, I'm FEDS. Okay, what's FEDS? But today, you go on social media, you just they can see everything, every project, everything.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to investigate companies right now. It's not, you don't hide like right now, if you bid something with me and I go Google your company, if I don't find it, I'm not going to work with you, right?
That's true.
So where in the past, what do? You go into public record of the ED and so on.
That's
so now it's just, there's more. Everything is so public these days. There's nothing you can hide.
That's why every time I work with one of my clients and, I do strategy work with them, I do marketing work with them, I do kind of culture work with them. And every time I go and search for their website or social media and I see just a static 1999 sort of designed website, I was like, no wonder. No, I mean, that's the easy one for me because that's the first thing you have to do is just put yourself out there more often. And if you don't put yourself, if I don't search your name as a CEO or a founder or an owner or even sort of a director or managing director, and I don't find you speaking, going out there, showing, hearing you as if I'm sitting with you right now, like I'm sitting with you, Rabih, now. How can I trust you now, 2024? It's just crazy.
Yeah, everybody's doing it. The procurement guys are doing it. The project manager's doing it. The CEO is doing it. Everybody's just the first thing they're gonna do is like, we're gonna hire FEDS. Who's FEDS? Instantly. Nobody doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's less and less procedure, and we only see still
that's an interesting observation.
Setup.
Where they have the old processes.
It's just follow, there's some bureaucracy that we're still, again, bureaucracy is getting better and better and better. And, we're going to really is one of the best.
Bureaucracy, in my opinion, was there just to eliminate fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Now, if you are able to eliminate it with clarity, and clarity can happen with just, putting yourself out there, then bureaucracy is unneeded. And that's a nice observation. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so yeah, in that sense, we were talking about.
So the dip that you had was that sort of active, let's say event that took place.
The turnover was constantly growing. The revenue is higher. It's just with that comes bigger cost. And if I don't get paid in time, so it was just cash flow management, and that's really, really, really one of the biggest killer of businesses. So for startups. So we know there's 4 factors for any startup. The idea, the people that are managing it, the money you're getting from, and the timing. So let's assume you tick those boxes. The only killer left now is cash flow management, right? Because you might have all the elements right, but if a delayed payment would cripple you, or it will sacrifice you to sell cheap, right? So you get all these vultures who's like, okay, somebody will take your business now. I mean, they'll take 60% just to. So if it's not a killer of the business, it's killer of your
morale, your spirit.
So cash flow management is one of the biggest things that if I want to advise somebody is to focus on.
So if you go back now, let's say 8 years, what would you advise yourself? How do you do things differently?
That might come out a bit arrogant. We got lucky, man. We got lucky. Everything worked well. Because those 2 contracts I mentioned, the payment in advance and convincing the government not to take a bid bond, these were our catalysts. That's the first 5 years where I didn't need anybody's money.
So the awareness was there from the beginning.
Yeah, but the necessity, if I had the money, I'll just pay it. I don't want to fight. But, if I pay that money, I won't be able to buy you drones to do the project for you. I won't be able to buy the extra car I need to do the job for you. Right. So I didn't use those words, but I said, you will cripple a startup by taking $500,000 dirhams and putting them and freezing them. Right. That money is salaries for probably 2 years at the time. Right. So
okay. So what's the best thing about innovation in our market here? You being one of the leaders as a startup in innovation in one of the kind of industries, drones, which is obviously at the pinnacle of innovation. And like you said, something new. It's not studied. You're actually leading it as you go. What's the best thing about this region?
All right. So we start from the top. One, innovation is kind of rewarded here, right? Anybody that does something amazing is immediately all over the news, right? So, and that trickles. So if the top management, our government here, really reward this behavior or expect it, then you have the media looking for it, right? So in the early days, I've spent almost every day on a TV, on a radio show and so on, because it's a drone, it's new, and it's like, now the excitement about drones has weighed down a bit because, it's not as unique as it used to be. But that, like any organization, it's from the top down, right? So what the culture is, it trickles. So in this country, we appreciate innovation. We appreciate big things, tallest building, biggest thing, whatever. So when it came to drones, that's how I felt here. The country is built around, rewarding big things, good things, tech things.
New things,
yes.
Risky things.
So as early as 2016, we talk on a regular basis. We're on TV, we're on radio and so on. So that really helped with our marketing. So that's, in another country, probably it's like a drone business, like, okay, good luck. But here it's a culture of, celebrating the amazing. And, our media is looking for stuff like this. So the moment there's anything about drones, like, let's Google who knows about drones. At the time we were very few people doing drones, so ended up there. So I think that environment, I believe in culture so much in a business, to me, culture is the most important thing in any business. Once you kick off, even as a startup, but once you kick off, it's so much more important as the team grows. And that applies to larger organizations like a government, like a country. So, and our culture here rewards innovation, rewards that setup, and it trickles down. So, I do something big. The media knows that this is important, so it goes for it. And then, from there, it goes to the general public.
Because of the focus of the leadership, obviously.
Yes, the leadership is on, let's be the biggest, let's be the best, let's be let's be better, let's innovate, let's remove paper,
which is an incentive to actually go further and try things. And it's just kind of lowers the risk profile across people to do things, and that supported you.
Yes. So that's kind of why innovation here is kind of makes sense. So that's from a kind of cultural point of view. But innovation as well is the number one key ingredient for sustainability from a business point of view, right? Do I want to be here in 20 years? Do I want to be here in 50 years, right? So if we don't innovate within the drone industry, within our company, if we don't come up with something new, then we're going to be obsolete eventually, right? So one of our key pillars is sustainability, and sustainability in both senses, like the sustainability being green,
the
being
environmental
good for the planet,
thing,
but also sustainable as in we want to be here in 50 years. I want to be sitting on a porch one day, too old to care, but FEDS exist and have millions of employees and it's just running. I'm not part of it anymore, but the name is there, right? So this is the culture in our business that FEDS is here to stay. We want to think long term. We don't care what's going to happen next week, next year, 2 years. Any decision we make, what is the long term impact? So to be sustainable, you have to be innovative. And if we look at the current businesses right now, the average age is 17 years, where it used to be 50, 60, 70, 80, and some years are still running. Some companies are still running 250 years.
Sure.
Bergenstock, what's it called? Bergenstock. They celebrated 250 years old yesterday. It's like, to me, it's just beautiful that we still have company running after 20. Like, when they celebrated 100 years birthday, I wasn't even born, right? Like, it's just amazing how old this company is. We don't have companies that are old anymore. So few. So the average age now is 17 years, and that's sad. Why? I don't know why exactly, but what I know is most of the people that shut down, like the famous one, the Kodaks, the
Blackberries,
the Blockbusters, all of these guys refuse to innovate. They stuck to what they know. Like, it worked for me before, it's going to work for me.
What's stopping them from innovating, in your opinion?
People. People. It's just management. It's always management. It's always a person. Since we moved to people, to me, everything is people. It's a human.
Like Nokia and the Elo case, it's just crazy.
It's not, everything is people. It's the wrong person at the wrong time. It's one CEO, it's one board, it's one that stopped these people from moving. It's one bad decision that led to another bad decision. It's nothing else. It's just people. I don't see companies. I don't see, I don't know, Do or Otisalat or Diwa. I see humans. I see people. And I approach this from a business point of view as well. So a lot of the time people come to us like, Do is a horrible company. I called them and the customer service was rubbish. Like, no, it's not. You spoke to the wrong person, the one person that represented that company at that time.
Yeah.
But Do have an amazing process, just like every other company, for customer service, the procedures. So it's always interactions between people. And the mistake that we do is we think of companies, as a building, as a name. Like, I called...
As a logo.
I don't know. Yeah, I called the municipality yesterday and that's what happened. No, you didn't call the municipality.
There's a person.
You spoke with a person, right?
But then the person is a representation of a process, is a representation of a culture, is a representation of a system.
Yes.
And sometimes there is merit to that. I'm 100% with you. But there is a merit to that, and if you're a wise leader, if you're a kind of a strategic thinker like you, for example, and how you see things beyond, you'll be able to take the necessary precautions to kind of, as much as humanly possible, eliminate those bad actors from within your organizations.
And beyond humanly possible, they do so much. I mean, everybody does. Like, obviously, you have the bad culture, the bad company that every time you call is bad, right? But you're still talking to people.
Yes,
because that person will still make the difference if it's approached in the right. So if he's completely unknowledgeable, like you're talking to this guy and you can tell he's don't know what he's talking about. He's completely never had training in his life. You can blame the company, but again, it's not the company. It's the leadership, and that leadership is a human.
Yes. Oh,
so that's my point. It's always people. It's never
human
an
beings.
institute. It's the human beings that are making those decisions. And even in the best of best companies, right? So Google, top company in the world. I don't know, Amazon. You've never had issues with them?
Of course.
Can you say Amazon doesn't have processes, doesn't train their people, doesn't do... So we
I think it's the laws of averages, right? So if the average experience is bad, then
And humans are they're balls of feelings. You catch somebody on the wrong day, then the company's bad, right?
Yes.
But there's nothing is absolute, right? So everything you have the 0%, you have the 99%, and everything is the mean average is usually what we discuss.
So you mentioned about innovation in this, and how innovation is beautiful in this part of the world because of how the leadership focuses on innovation, and because how the leadership focuses on innovation, then the media picks it up, and because the media picks it up, there's an incentive. There's a strong incentive for startups like you and I to actually grind and have these sleepless nights and take all the risks in the world, because the reward outside of the monetary reward and the strategic objectives reward, also the recognition reward and the system. So there's a fertile sort of soil that has all the ingredients for the seed to grow and prosper, right?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing about innovation in this part of the world, in your opinion?
Worst thing about innovation? Okay, so I didn't get the raise, but some of my colleagues, entrepreneur founders, I heard from them that it's so much harder to raise here than it is outside. We don't have. I mean, again, I don't say it with absolute authority, because I didn't get to raise and I wasn't exposed to this. But from a lot of my, entrepreneur kind of circle, they really struggle to raise here, and they end up raising outside of this country. I cannot pinpoint. I can't tell you why this is happening, but we are losing bright minds to other countries because of ease of access to money. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Definitely in our industry, in the drone industry, we lost a couple of startups. They moved to the US because they could get money. Yeah, they could get money easier there. So I know at least of 2 companies that moved because they were UAE startups. They lived here.
That's too many, right?
That's too many. Yeah, they shouldn't. Why not?
Yes.
We have bright minds here. We have money.
We have
Why
capital,
not?
exactly.
Yes. So they found it easy, at least in this industry, to raise money.
Do you think it's the maturity of the investors?
It could be that. I mean, we can't dismiss that they probably approached the wrong investors as well. We don't really know.
Were they able to get funding?
They manage, yeah. They're solid companies. They're launching. They're maybe 6, 7, 8 years old already. They're functioning. They're operating, but they failed to raise here. I don't know what it is.
That's sort of slowing down.
That's slowing down, and while it's a lot, it's just not enough to have statistics, right? So
I know. I'll tell you what. So I had many entrepreneurs such as you on this podcast, and I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but everybody said the same thing.
Okay,
everybody said the same thing, so it can't be a coincidence, right? I mean, the concept of investor-founder relationships, and especially the maturity of the investor, but also the maturity of the founder. Let's be fair to everybody here. Yeah. But predominantly, and my personal experience as well with a couple of, let's say, founders who actually moved out, one to the Netherlands and the other to Silicon Valley. I mean, that's too many for me as well, right? And also I had multiple interactions with investors here, and usually they're frustrated from their founders, right? From their startups. And there's this, I don't know if the chemistry, I don't know if it's the maturity, I don't know if it's the education and the expectations. I mean, I heard horror stories from startups and founders that their own investors literally are waiting at their doors 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, waiting for them, asking them, where have you been? Why aren't you in the office? Imagine that. I mean, it's just
that's
crazy.
Extreme.
Exactly. That's eyebrows all the way up, rather, huh? And that's obviously an extreme case, and I'm sure 100% that probably that's one of one. But the point is, it exists, and there's no smoke without fire, and that sort of trust issue, I think, is building up. I mean, to be fair, most of the people who talked about this, not complained, talked about this as facts, said that, how old are we in this game relative to other parts of the world? I mean, other parts of the world probably were 20 years behind, because these things mature over time.
Maturity is definitely a key ingredient in this case, yes.
It is. And, one of the things that I always think of it is, when we look at innovation in this part of the world, the acceleration is important more than where we are right now. So the state of innovation is very important to understand where we are and how it is from a support system and the ideas that are being exported. But another question I want to ask you, and this is also related to us here. I've been grappling with this question a lot, and I'm kind of going into the journey of researching that question. Do you think that the outlook on average, right? Are we buying innovation or are we investing in innovation?
Okay. Again, on a personal
a
personal note,
as an opinion,
are we buying? Yes. As an opinion, I think we buy more. I've seen it personally. Attempts at investing locally, and there's a lot of program that will push to that. But when it comes to investing and encouraging startups, while it's good, it's not as good as some other countries. So I've seen our international partners, or counterparts, they've had access to a lot more than we could here. So some of them are even in Asia, I've heard of, Japanese countries, Malaysian countries. So they get more access
to what?
To support, like early funds. If you're doing this, then you will get this. There's more grants for these entities.
Yeah.
So in Europe, it's a lot. Anybody out of university with a good idea will get a grant from somewhere. I don't know who gives grants here. I can't think of one name that would give grants to to me at least. If I want to start
new pre-seed sort of crazy PowerPoint slides.
I want to come up with a new idea today. I wouldn't think of one entity that would give me a grant. Where in Europe you will get a grant.
Yeah.
Because you would get, but then again, it's maturity. What all these, these are 100 years old, setups. Sometimes they come out of university that, so to support our future bright students, we'll set up with a partnership with XYZ, a grant system that will support these guys when they kick up. So I've heard that term so much that it's like, how come we don't have grants?
Why do you think?
I don't know. So, but again, we are a young country.
Yeah, so, a young nation, generally speaking. As a region. Yeah.
So again, we don't have a university that's 100 years old here, or 50 years old, or anything. So everybody's here is new. So as we grow, as the nation grows, as we have more population, maybe it will come. I think what you said is we're 20 years behind in that kind of sense.
Yeah,
that's because we are 50 years old.
Yeah. As a country, but as a region in that domain, probably we're
very young.
Very young.
Very young. So once we have this locally grown talent,
yes,
most of the startups are, we moved here, right? We didn't grow up here.
Yes.
But we are now in a generation that is being grown up here. So when I first moved here, there was no high schools, or the high school have 4 or 5 kids, right? So my kids were in primary school, but you go to school, you see the high school will have 4 or 5 kids per class, but now they have 5-6 classes full of 30 to 40 students.
True.
So there's more and more, bright minds grown here. Those bright minds will go to universities here, hopefully, and then they graduate from here, and these guys will need support. So it will create that demand in the future. It didn't exist. So I would, from my experience with high school 10 years ago, I would imagine universities had those students as well.
Yeah.
But now more and more people are staying here, moving here. And that 15 years ago, if you come to Dubai, you live for 3 years and you move back.
Yeah.
But now you come to Dubai, you move for 3 years, then you stay for another 3 years, and then you
stay forever, in my case, I'm staying forever. Visa, and then you're staying there. But I think this is the kind of peak of our discussion, and this is what I'm trying to achieve from all of these kind of conversations is, what's the danger of conflating buying versus investing in innovation, and the illusion of actually being innovative versus addressing it as it is, keep on doing it, not stopping, and not just, it's not the evaluative language of good and bad, and no. It's just clearly understanding that, okay, on the grand scheme of things, on the world arena, are we innovative or not? Are we exporting innovation? Are we investing in innovation, actually growing innovation locally and exporting it, versus are we buying it because eventually we are going there? And the danger that I'm sort of observing and trying to research is that we're sort of, and that I need to, obviously this is my anecdote and opinion, we're sort of falling prey to the illusion of innovation. And what's the danger of that, in your opinion?
Illusion of anything is danger, because we'll end up in a sinkhole in a few years, because we're putting money where it's not going anywhere. But as you were speaking, I was thinking of a few companies that you're right, we don't export enough, but we do. So there's a few entities that exist, and I think we've been approached by government bodies to kind of fill forms in terms of our like they kind of classifying companies. So you get high scores if you are exporting tech.
Nice.
Right. So somebody's looking, somebody's digging.
I like
right.
that.
And just like in our industry, when we started, everything was so manual, and now it's becoming digitized. It took 10 years, but it's going to be amazing next year for us, right? And there's a law in Dubai that as well that allows for drone delivery and so on. No other city in the world has it. So I'm thinking from the drone side that where we're heading is already ahead of some people, and we will end up exporting tech. So I still believe that the first city that does large-scale deliveries would be Dubai, or human deliveries, like not deliveries, human transportation.
Yeah,
would be Dubai, because we're actually the only city in the world that have laws for it. So that's from that point of view. So in the background, somebody's working on a list of top companies, and they're asking the right question. Because, like I said, as you spoke, I would remember, reading those questions. And, how much talent you hire locally.
Okay.
Do you export, do you import? So somebody is actually looking
keeping
at that.
track of this.
Yeah, and again, at the risk of repeating ourselves, it's just these things takes time. It doesn't. You can't just snap your fingers and now you have a fund granting any. What's undeniable is innovation is so critical.
It's center point.
Really. And entrepreneurial spirit needs to be encouraged, and startups needs to be funded. An ecosystem needs to be created, because the university students that we've been talking about have ideas in their head that will save countries, that will save planets that we don't know yet. But if we don't create an environment for them,
a system,
one, we'll lose them to other countries. And then those countries are the innovative countries. And two, we might lose them altogether.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, 1 in 100 ideas is going to be the amazing idea. But
the
how do you know?
Right?
Yes, exactly. You have to invest. You have to put. Every investor knows it. That you invest in 100 company and 10% will succeed. You don't know which one's going to succeed. You have your hunches. But the same goes for governments and grants and fundings. That you have to encourage the whole ecosystem, because one good egg is going to just produce something amazing.
And will pay off for everything else.
Yes.
So if there's one thing that you would want to see in this part of the world, and I say this part of the world, I'm not just talking about a country or a geography, sort of like the GCC, Jordan, this kind of group of people. What would that be, in your opinion?
Okay, I'll start with a selfish kind of wish.
Yeah.
It's kind of... a more focus on regulation. I don't want to say the ease of regulation. I don't want an ease of regulation for drones, because that will spell disaster. But a more focus and more effort made toward controlling drones.
Intentionally.
Right? Intentional, more focused, bigger teams working on making drones a day-to-day activity. Because the more the government allows, the more money will go into it. The more investment will go into it, right? So as long as there's a country that says you're not allowed to fly drone, or even the illusion of not allowed, because some people think you're not allowed to, you can't fly drones here. So when the government is saying you can fly, so when that money is being done, and this is happening here right now. So like I said, in the coming months or years, it will be more obvious to everybody. So I don't want an ease of regulations. They know it's a mistake. Nobody should do that. An ease of regulation will spell disaster. You have the misuse and you have the idiot use. Somebody will make mistakes. So we don't want an ease of regulation. We want a more attention on this industry that would allow us to fly more, but still fly safe. And that's not just this country, like you said. I'm talking about this whole region.
Yeah.
There is serious hindrance to our industry. You mentioned Jordan. Jordan is really, really bad for drones. Other countries are the same. They're not as easy. So that's kind of...
They're not even considering regulations, you mean?
It's really tough. They're considering regulations. There's something work on it. Some people fly drones, but they're just making it really, really tough for everybody.
You don't see a collaborative partnership in the way regulations are being done.
And again, it's a human. There's somebody standing there that when the agenda or the file gets him, like, nope.
Just stops
right?
it.
So I don't know who the human is. I don't know who the department is, but somebody doesn't have the open mind to go like, instead of blocking it, let's create a committee. Let's regulate this. If it takes a year, if it takes 2 years, doesn't matter. But start.
But show me progress.
Yes. So, and then if less selfish, same applies to everything else. So the technology is always way ahead of regulations. Always.
Yeah.
So, I have a prime example, but it's in everything. In everything, even classic stuff, like in construction. All right. I don't want to use cement anymore. I want to use 3D printed material. I want to use, there's no regulations for it. You're not allowed. You can't build your house right now because there is no license for it. There is no because obviously there's reason for that, because are you windproof? Are you fireproof? Are you earthquake proof? So there's a reason why you're not allowed to build your house within out of regulations. So I give the construction as, because this is a dinosaur industry. It's been around since
forever,
since we needed shelters, right?
Yeah.
So, and anything in between. So regulations is always behind tech. And I think we're in a good place that regulation here changes. Like, we have here, like I said, from a drone point of view, we're the only city that have, from Bitcoin point of view, we have regulations. From anything, like this city keeps up. But again, we're not talking about this city.
No.
We're talking about regionally. Regulation needs to keep up with tech. That's our kind of, you keep up because, technology can move so fast if there's money. But if there's no regulation, then neither the idea nor the cash is going to help you. So regulators keeps up with technology, irrelevant what the tech is really our kind of hyper boost to a better future or faster future.
It screams confidence to everyone, not just the funders, to you to actually take risks, but also to your clients to adopt those technologies, right? Where do you see FEDS in 10 years?
Okay, so it's funny, the vision changed so much because FEDS was supposed to be a 10-year plan.
Okay.
I had every plan to exit in 2024. We're in 2024, right? And honestly, I just love it to start with. And, even though I was so focused on exiting 2024, so the focus was on building the business,
That's a good focus, isn't it?
Yes, that's a good focus.
Yeah.
So it was never about, profit is amazing, but the focus was to grow the business.
Of course, yeah. You can't focus on both. It's very difficult, right? Either growth or...
So increasing the valuation was kind of like just make the business more solid, more big, more sustainable, more, very sellable setup, everything's clean inside, all the books are accounted for. Like that was the focus. And that's not a bad thing because we've built a corporation that, from inside, like if you look inside of it, inside the brain of it, it matches the, big corporations, like things you don't think about. We invest in things you think about in 30 years. Like this is now you need to regulate. Now you need to do this. But because we're in the aviation industry, we really always had this. We have to do this right. So if you open FEDS right now, you will see everything is in line. Everything is aligned because that's kind of focus.
The systems are in place.
The system is in place because, that's the only way you can sell a business in 10 years.
That's the music to any investor's ears. Yeah.
But now, the industry is beautiful. And I thought in 10 years, the industry would be a lot more, like a lot more widely used.
More than the 20% you just mentioned.
Yes. It should have been. I mean, that's what I thought. I thought by now we'd be flying drones, delivering drones. 5 years ago, I said in 5 years, I was absolutely wrong. But the other biggest factor is I'm having so much fun. Right. So I could sell, but then I'll have to start something new. And I already knew what I want to start. Like I had the plan, but this is so much fun. And now I'm thinking, why do I want to sell? Right.
Are you falling into the comfort zone issue?
No, actually I'm not. It's very challenging. It's a really tough year this year. So we're back to working 12 hours a day and so on. But it's a different kind of game because really the adoption rate is really kicking up right now. So it's the first, 2024 is the first year we see so many tenders for drones, like a ridiculous amount of numbers of tenders. So it feels like I'm leaving a bit too early. And my dream was to be kind of a GCC, dominant drone industry. I wasn't, yes, I wanted to build, what do you call it, international scale or international level, but not expansions wise. But now I'm seeing that we can. We're one of the best drone companies globally and nothing stops us. And, the concept of a UAE startup and we were like, just 3 guys in the first year and then, we got here. So it just feels that. So I think in the next 10 years, now we're aiming to have to spread globally. So Africa is now set up, 3-4 countries by next year, hopefully. And once we have a solid state here, I want to move to Europe next. So that's kind of
Europe. Why Europe?
Geographically, it's closer to
open market.
It's a decent open market. The regulation will fit exactly where will I be in the next 5 to 6 years because of the way it's structured. it doesn't make sense to move now. The reason why it's long, I don't know how much time we have, but it's to do with economy of everything. You know, the cost of setting up versus the cost of getting paid. So it will make more sense in a few years than it is now. And also, I'm very wary of overextending, because, like I said, sustainability is not just, we need to make sure that we don't overreach and then we can't keep up.
You stretch yourself too thin.
Yeah, I got a small slap on the face in 2019 when I was like pushing. And I've learned from that. And if I make mistake with an extra zero, then I don't think I can recover, right? So when we're talking, 10, 20 million, it's fine. But we're talking 100 to 200,000, you add a zero, now you're talking in the millions. So the risk factor is so we grew fast, and we could fall as fast if we're not careful. So overstretching is not good, but we are stretching. So we're constantly pushing
with mindfulness and careful sort of.
Yeah. So 10 years of no dividends, no profit share, no nothing. It's just constant grows. Yeah. So that's kind of.
What about IPO and sort of? Is that on the table or?
Not right now. Not right now. I think we want to. Like I said, my mind was completely into exit system. Absolutely. But now I'm thinking, what's wrong with this being a private company and still the largest company in, so 25 years now is my next, at 25 years anniversary, let's talk. So another 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, so I think I want to see what
That's
we
amazing.
could achieve on year 25 rather than...
because of the factors, and you're being very mindful and aware of the factors that you have no control over, like regulations and expansion and everything else.
Yeah.
Rabih, it's been very, very an honor to speak to you, honestly. I've been looking forward to this. Thank you very much for this talk.
Thank you for having me.